If you're not familiar with this series, we are going through each of the starter decks that we got for the 2023 season in Arena. We've covered Angelic Accountants, Balancing Act, Blossoming Grove, Grave Matters, Ignite the Forge, On the Hunt, and now we're going into Spellweaver. Interestingly, a lot of these cards are actually going to rotate. I actually, for a while, thought that this was an older deck that I was looking at, but it turns out that it is not. We do have some new Capenna, but it looks like it's only the one card. What is it this deck is trying to do? This deck is centered around Leer. Spells can't be countered. As long as it's your turn, each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. So, we're going to cast a bunch of spells, right? And then use Leer to recast those spells. Looking over the deck, we have some pretty typical win conditions for Izzet deck with Smoldering Egg. And whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you put counters on Smoldering Egg equal to the amount of mana costs. And then when it gets 7, it transforms. And the flip side is the Azimuth Dragon. It's a 4/4 flyer, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it does 2 damage to any target. It's not terrible. It's actually a pretty good card if you're able to continually cast spells. Luckily, we have 22 non-creatures and 13 creatures in this deck, so we should have no problem getting the spells. Where I think that we're going to have a bit of a problem is we don't have too much in the way of card draw. We'll like a couple more Memory Deluges, or a couple more Big Scores, or Thirst for Discoveries, but we get what we get in these starter decks. We do have some Wandering Minds to dig out some non-creatures, right? So we use the Wandering Mind to dig out like a Braid or a Burn Down the House, so to say. We're going to have to find ways to dig out our cards to be effective in this format. We got some good creatures that can also do damage if you could cast a spell, like this Festive Crasher. Is a 1/3, but becomes a 3/3 whenever you cast an instance or sorcery spell. We also have the Spellrune Painter, who does kind of the same thing, except for he has a day-night cycle. He's a human shaman werewolf, and he becomes a werewolf during night, and he's just bigger, and he gets pumped a little bit more. One of the more interesting cards in here is a Vadrik, my bad, Astral Archmage. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day. Instances sorcery spells cost X less it costs, where X is Vadrik's power. When day becomes night, or night becomes day, put a 1/1 counter on Vadrik. So if you could get him out on turn 3, it would be amazing to every cast nothing, pass turn, use instances instances on your opponent's turn, right? But you still get that day-night cycle. If you cast nothing, it becomes night. Then when your opponent starts taking his turn, start hitting him. And make sure that he can't do what he wants to do on his turn. Make sure he can't get damage off. I don't think there's any way to protect creatures, though, in this deck. You just kind of have to hope your opponent doesn't have removal. That's scary. Opponent's always going to have removal. Anyway, that's what this deck is centered around. We don't have any way of really protecting creatures, so we're going to have to hope kind of to get in hot and heavy early on, is what I'm guessing. Before we jump into the arena, make sure to like and subscribe. We're giving these decks ratings on how good I think they do in play. Some of them are better than others. I don't have a huge amount of hope for Spellweaver, but, you know, Wizard of the Coast sometimes mess up Izzet. After we do this series. After this series is over, I'm going to go through and make more budget decks. Oh, we need to get rid of this. That was midweek magic. But we're going to make more budget decks that can be used in a free-to-play account or a new account in Arena. And you'll be able to compete in Standard with all of the decks that we go through. Why do we want to play in Standard? We eventually want to build decks to compete in Standard events, and the meta shifts all the time. So we can't just rely on one good deck in order to take us through and get us our 7 wins consistently based off of what other people are playing in the meta at the time. For that reason, we need to fill this collection out a lot more than what it is. Now, this account is 100% free to play. I started it on June 1st, and we're doing okay. We're getting some cards. But if we want to compete, we are going to have to collect most of the cards in Standard. And to do that, we're going to have to rely quite heavily on these starting decks to start with, and then slowly build out these decks from what they are now into good, consistent winning decks. The 2023 starter decks, for the most part, are showing off a lot of the archetypes that are being used right now in Standard. And I think Wizards of the Coast did a great job building these decks for the most part. And we're likely to see variations of these cards along the or these decks along the way. So, in order to actually build out our collection, we're going to start with these decks and build out what we think we can and build out a collection based off of these archetypes. If you are interested in that kind of content, like and subscribe, and we can produce more and more of that content. If there's no interest for this series, we'll go a different direction with the channel. But lately, we've been getting a lot of attention on this series, and a lot of people really seem to enjoy the series. So if you do like the series, leave a comment. What you like, what you don't like, if you think this is heading in a good direction, if you want to see a specific deck built out, comment below and tell me which deck you want to see. What cards do you want to see added to this collection first? Without further ado, let's try Spellweaver out in the arena. See you soon. Again, we are just playing in play. We don't want to play ranked. These are starter decks, and I'm going into these cold. So I don't know how this deck is going to do, and don't want to really quite go down in ranking just for the fact that I'm recording a video. So we're going to go into play, and we're going to try this deck out and see if we can get some wins. Again, we got the Reckless Impulse. We also have an Electric Revolution. There's good card draw here, but we'll see. We will see. Another tapped land. This is probably going to be discarded. Okay. We'll drop a land. Reckless Impulse, is that good? Let's see. Oh, no, well... This is exile now. There's no real way of redeeming it. Each player mills 3 cards. That's not terrible for us, I don't think. Gets +1/+1 whenever I cast an instant or a sorcery. I still think that we want to upgrade that. We don't mind the middle. I guess I should have played blue mana here so we could have considered. We have 4 instances in the graveyard. For some reason, I feel like we're falling behind here. Well, let's put the Spell Ruin Painter out. Opponent down to 3 cards. Flunksy. Oh, that's brilliantly lovely. And remember, we did lose or burn down the house here. So we're going to have to be careful. That's not a big score, huh? Draw 2. We get a play with fire off the top. Let's go ahead and pop it. Don't mind milling. Okay, Lear is still kind of set up here. But we'll end turn. That's a sorcery. Here's an instant, but we don't have the mana base for it quite yet. We're getting there. Royal Mage. Another mana. Man, that is not good. Dropping a mana to draw 2 more cards. And a Festival Crasher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can start putting these Seize the Storms out. That might not be bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Skull Raid. All right, that kind of summed it up. Draw a card, discard a card. Kind of a connive without the benefit. Let's reach here. Nothing. Oh, goddamn. Let's reach again. A braid. Swing for 5. Opponent knows we have this braid as well. We'll probably be taking 3 this turn. Tapped land. That's Electric Revelation. Discard the land. Yeah, goes through. Now, do we want to hit hard or not? I think we do. Because if we hit hard here, he's got a 2-1. Just a basic 2-1. We'll go down to 11. Auto-pay it. And then we can Seize the Storm and have a huge creature for him to have to deal with. Graveyard. We got plenty of land for this deck. Swing. Dragon Turtle. Oh. So there's some benefit here. But he's only going to be able to swing for 2. Nothing's flying. Mana. Seize the Storm. Just seize the storm. The opportunity is there. An 11-11. Can you deal with it? Draws a card, discards a card. He looks at the 11-11. No cards in hand, though, for the opponent. We got a Leer. We got a Leer. Didn't mean to swing with that. I got too excited for the Leer. Down to 1. Leer. Target creature or planeswalker. Everything is... Oh, play with fire. Good game, opponent. Out. Leer saves the day. Well, actually, it was this elemental. Oh, I was in the right spot. From the Seize the Storm. Let's be more specific. Leer just finished them off. Our wonderful tap lands. All red. A Braid, Festival Crasher, Reckless Impulse, Play with Fire. Okay, he plays a black. Since we're going second, we will play the tapped land and not think too much about it. Okay. It's kind of dangerous to put a creature down right here. So we will just play with fire. Sometimes you get burned. Oh my. Very interesting. A Braid. Hopefully we draw land next turn. That's the key draw. Big score. We still want to draw land. We could have buried this away. But I'm not too afraid of the Arc Spitter. Neat name for a card. I haven't seen that. We did not draw land. Of course we would. Maybe get the egg down and pass. It has no problem drawing land. You do have a trouble playing good moves, though, against this deck. Oh, we just keep drawing more and more abrades. Good target for the abrade. He creates a rhino. Something mortality, something. I've seen this run before. No. Play with fire would be a great draw. Another Arc Spitter. A Gold Hound. A Fireblade Charger. Man, oh man, opponent. Okay. So we go for the Wandering Mind here. Burn down the house is the best option, but we really needed something to draw. We're kind of in survival mode here. Yeah. Well, we just block the most damage as possible. I think that still blocks it. It does. That's great. Mana. Rubbing for drawing mana. Sometimes it works. Keep rubbing. We didn't draw mana, but we did get a Reckless Impulse. And here we get a tapped mana. That's better than no mana. Block the charger. 1, 2, 3 damage to it. Oh. This is disgusting. Five. All right. Burn down the house. Just burn it all down. We don't want any of this on the field. And just like that, we're right back into it. Gold Hound. Arc Spitter. Yeah, so he's able to attach a Rune of Mortality to the Arc Spitter. That's pretty actually alright. What if we were to abrade the Arc Spitter? Yeah. That goes away too, right? It does. Consider was the only thing available. So we will consider. Let's draw the mana. Put it out. We had mana problems earlier in the game, and, you know, maybe I have PTSD from it, but the opponent is still coming hot and heavy. Okay. Another mana. Now we should be good on mana deck. Let's put this out and then seize the storm. We got a 9/9 out. So your guys can't really get past this. See, we have problems getting mana. Now we can't get enough of it, apparently. We got another Arc Infusion in hand, and we should probably use it. Play with fire. Is that good here? Not necessarily. So I think we go Thirst and we draw. So we got plenty of mana whenever we're drawing again. So we should get mana here, right? Opponent. And of course we get roped. And I join you beyond the rope. Let's get rid of this. We got plenty of card draw now, but that's not necessarily what we want right now. We could Reckless Impulse or pass, because he'll block with the fin. And then our 11/11 dies. I don't think we attack here. Let the opponent take the initiative. He swaps it over to the Finn. Do I care if Finn hits me? Let's see. I would get... What is it? It's 2, right? Yeah, 2 poison counters. I don't think I care. So he gets a mana ramp, but it's a little late in the game to really want mana ramp. Transfers it back over to the Gold Hound. Opponent knows how to play some magic. We're going to big score here. Discard the tapped land. And opponent scoops away. Opponent scoops away. Oh, this is not keepable. No ways to draw besides consider. Too much land. There's Deluge. We don't have the land base for Deluge, but I guess we could put a Reckless Impulse on bottom. I like Reckless Impulse, but it seems like it never really works out quite as well as I would like it to. We'll just go ahead and consider on this turn. Oops. Why oops? Seems like everything's fine. Put a tap land out, pass turn. Play with fire. Festive Crasher. It's got a Foretold card there. That's probably a Saw It Coming. Well, if it is Saw It Coming, can't use it effectively. Now, let's see if it is a Saw It Coming, because this should be countered. Okay, what do we want? Don't really want the Consider. But land is good. Land. So you got 4 land. You did say oops. You haven't done anything since you've said oops. Let's Reckless Impulse. So this is a Saw It Coming. We're going to go ahead and toss this Thirst. Is this going to pass? It does. Discarding the land. Still 4 mana available for the opponent. Swing for 5. Takes it. Arcane Infusion. He got a Kami Flare. Okay. Kami Flares are Crasher. So, what are you going to do to try to win the game? Oh. Okay. I think we Thirst again, right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we don't have to discard Festive Crasher. And my friend who has said, oops, we've been able to dig pretty deep. He is now starting to dig pretty deep himself. Now we got the Cathartic Pyre and the Abrade. And that's enough to do the damage that we need to do to this Skrillex. And if worse comes to worse, we could play them from the graveyard, right? Because we got the Leer. But he's saving his Saw It Coming for something. He lets go of it. That's got to be a Saw It Coming. I don't know what his holdback is. Red-blue is a archetype that I've always liked to play, though. And it takes a certain skill set to be able to do it well. 5. 6 mana. Cry for Leer. Saw it coming. Right? Come on. You want to do it. Oh yeah, that's right. Spell cannot be countered. We got a mana up. So I think we consider, actually. That gives us a 3/3. We knock him down to 5. And we don't lose anything in the process. There's a Cathartic Pyre. There's a Play with Fire. Done. Done. Oops, indeed, opponent. Few matches kind of highlighted some of the good parts of this deck. You know, if you're going up against heavy creature decks and you just so happen to get the removal that you need, it's really powerful. But something that happens with Izzet is it is very, volatile, and you have to create a phenomenal deck to really compete at any real level for any real length of time. I played a lot of matches with this deck, an embarrassing amount of matches with this deck, and a lot of the time, if you don't kill the creatures early, you won't be able to kill them. There's only one board wipe in this whole deck. There's only one way to control the entire field, and the removal of braids are good, but a lot of creatures in standard right now are actually 4/4s. So you're not going to be able to hit the bigger threats. Take Lear, for example, from this deck. It is a 4/4. So you're not really going to be able to hit it effectively, and we definitely lost a lot more games than we've won with this deck. And it is really quite a shame that Wizards of the Coast once again missed the mark when it came to Izzet decks. Real soon, we're going to jump over to a post-game wrap and just wrap this guy up. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter video, but there's a lot to talk about. So, in my humble opinion, I think that Wizards of the Coast was kind of handicapped on this deck because if you look at the rares that they decided to put in here and the mythic, these are all not rotating out. So, you have Smoldering Egg, the Geist Flame Reservoir, Vadric, and Burn Down the House with a mythic being Lear. Right? These all don't rotate away. The inconsistency with these cards is what really damages this deck. Like, I haven't seen this card ever get play. And why? Because it's too slow. They also don't have any bounce spells. I know you need these guys in that deck, right? You need some way to protect your creatures, either with unsummons or with Fading Hopes. You also need ways to get creatures out of the graveyard, especially since you don't have many. Bounce spells in blue are fantastic, and so having these Fading Hopes in there would make that deck a lot better. Maybe even just Depart the Realm. Right? But without those, this deck is dead in the water if things don't go exactly as planned, especially since we only have 13 creatures in the deck and 22 non-creatures. If you want to do a deck like this, sometimes it's better to have more to attack the face, board sweeps, stuff like that, in order to have fewer creatures or specific creatures that you protect. Right? Like, if these three considers were Fading Hope instead, and of course you want to play with fire, but if these considers were Fading Hopes, this would be a lot better, just because you'd be able to protect your Smoldering Egg. I would also put a couple more Smoldering Eggs in there, and at least one more Lear. I know it's a mythic and expensive, but even with this profile, I can afford to do that right now. The Seas of Storm did really well, though, so I would definitely leave that at 2. 2 more Wandering Minds. Take out the Vadric. Take out the Geist Flame Reservoir. It's just really slow to do. You need early draw power. You need bounce spells to protect the creatures that you do have. You also need something to finish off the game. And Burn Down the House is a fantastic card, but you're really wanting it to remove your opponent's board. It is not a way to finish the game at all. For the most part, sometimes you can create doubles, and it's really, really, really strong, but a lot of the times you're wiping the board clean over and over again with it. And if you're going to be doing a Burn Down the House kind of game, you probably want 3, if not 4 of these in there. What didn't work up at our 5 cost? Storm Skrillex. Well, that's basically the only one that doesn't really work over here well, but I would remove the Storm Skrillex for sure, and I might even remove the Seas of Storms in place of Burn Down the House, because the problem with Seas of Storm is it costs 5. It just creates an elemental based off of the amount of instances and sorceries in your graveyard, and you know what? For 2 mana, you could remove him immediately, right? And then you lose all the value with this card, and it kind of works against your Lear. because you want those cards in the graveyard, but with Leer, you're using those cards from the graveyard. So by the time that the end game comes around, you can't really utilize Seize the Storm to finish the game. So Seize the Storm, get rid of it, put the sweepers in, right? With Burn Down the House and stuff like this. Another thing is these Abrades and Play with Fires are really good in the early game, but there is no way to attack the opponent with this deck except with the Geist Flame Reservoir, right? But you're going to have to get it up to 20. That's 20 spells that you have to cast in order to get this to go off and kill the opponent. Where's the Magnus Opuses? I know that they're rotating out, and they're rares, right? Yeah, they're rares, but it would make this deck so much better to have some Magnus Opuses, and of course the good old favorite, Creative Outburst. Those cards are going to do much better to actually deal some major damage to your opponent, or directly to the face, or directly to a creature. Those are the kinds of cards that you want in a deck like this. Problem is it's rotating away. I think Wizards of the Coast wanted this deck to be better last year, and it just didn't get the attention that it could have had. I mean, they had all the things. Magnus Opus is a fantastic card. I actually have a deck highlighting its brilliance with Arcane Bombardment. Oh, that's another thing. Why would you make a creature central deck whenever red-blue actually operates better with tokens as creatures, like Seize the Storm? You could have 2 or 3 Leers. You could have 2 or 3 Smoldering Eggs, totally fine. This creature, kind of a waste of space. You could put a draw card in here. You could be drawing cards right here to get to your big guys at the end, get your mana on the field, get your Magnus Opuses out, and Arcane Bombardment. Get that Arcane Bombardment down, and oh my god, it could be devastating for the opponent, but you have to have something that can actually hit the face, or some way to protect the creatures that you do have. And these creatures are, for the most part, kind of underwhelming. So, let's give this deck a rating. It's not going to be good. Certainly not good. So I think this might be, wow. The first one that I'm going to do, sub 2. If you disagree, let me know why. But I really like Izzet. I think Izzet is really fun to play, but for the past couple of years, unfortunately, it has not been the most optimal way to play. So we're going to give this a 1.5. I'm going to give it a 0.5 just because it's Izzet, and I love Izzet. But in this form, this deck will not perform very well for you at all. Sadly, that's where I'm going to have to leave the video. So go ahead, like, subscribe if you're still there. If you disagree with me, tell me why you think this deck deserves more love than what I'm giving it right now. But until next time, I am out of words. Bye.